Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to This is Mariya. Today we're talking about Life Path 33, Master Life Path 33. If you are this life path, or if somebody you know is this life path, then this episode is for you. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. I invite you to come meditate with me on our Sacred Universe podcast. It is a space filled with love. I lovingly craft every single meditation, every single journey for healing, for alignment, for flow, and for the greater good. So I hope that you join me there. Secondarily, check out my book called 72 Keys to Manifestation, or An Ancient Path of a Modern Day Alchemist. It is a book about manifestation, just like the title suggests. And it is all about creating the best possible life for yourself. Now, the book talks about energy work, the energy backbone behind manifestation, how the energy in the universe works, and where you can get additional energy to help you manifest things. So if that sounds like something that is up your alley, I think you're going to love the book. It is available on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And that's it. We're diving straight into Life Path number 33, one of the master life paths, one of the three master life paths. We have already spoken about 11 and 22, and so 33 is the next in line. Now, this life path is somewhat rare compared to pretty much any other life path. This one would come up the least on planet Earth. It is also a life path that hasn't been anchored all that long ago, because it was deemed that potentially it wasn't serving humanity at the time, but now it is, and that's why we're talking about it. Life Path 33 is the master teacher. Life Path 33 is the master communicator, is the master igniter, if you will. It could also be a master philosopher, but we can focus on the broader teacher aspect of this life path here. In this episode, we're going to talk about the challenges and the blessings of this life path. What is so special about it? Why is it a master life path? And if you're born into it, what are some of the things that you may expect on your path? What are some of the things, the challenges, the obstacles you had to overcome in your childhood? And then, of course, we're going to talk about your blueprint as well as a Master 33. What is so special about your energy? How are you different from everybody else? And, hopefully that is going to shed the light on some of the things that you have witnessed about yourself or about your path that has already happened. And hopefully it'll put things into perspective for you. That's it. That's the agenda. Alrighty, diving into the Life Path 33. While rare, this life path is extremely valuable for planet Earth right now because a Life Path 33 brings in the much needed knowledge, the much needed discernment, and the much needed understanding during the time of the greater shift that we're going through right now. So anybody who is a Master 33 that has shown up to the face of the planet Earth right now is not meant to play it small. They're meant to be seen, but most importantly, heard. They have come here with a message or a teaching or a body of knowledge that they are here to distribute and spread around society. Now, everybody who's a Master 33 has a very different type of teaching that they've brought with them. A very different knowing, deeper understanding of something. It could be a particular area of life, like understanding food and what food is supposed to look like in the future, or understanding health, what health is supposed to feel like in the future, understanding wealth and abundance, what that is going to look like in the future. But every Master 33 carries within themselves a kernel of wisdom that is unique to them. And they almost preserve within their light bodies this essential teaching that they need to birth. But I will be the first one to tell you that being Life Path 33 is not easy. It is a winding road. It is potentially a challenging path because before you're able to anchor the teaching, before you yourself become fully aware and in tune and aligned with it, you have to pass through some trials and tribulations because that teaching is not given to you freely. In other words, you have to earn it as a Master 33. Now, every Master Life Path number you have to prepare for. And anybody who takes on a Life Path 33 usually goes through numerous lives that are Life Path 3, Life Path 6, Life Path 7, and Life Path 9. This is a very common way to play before you get to Master 33. The reason this path is so challenging is because a teacher, like a true teacher, always goes against the grain a little bit. But at the same time, this is not the rebel path. Master 33 has a very mild energy. They have a very, almost like beautiful, nurturing energy. A lot of them are really, really strong in the heart space. And so for them, they don't necessarily have the energy of the red that would be so easy, or that would make their path so easy as a rebel. Because Life Path 33 is almost like a rebel teacher. We're saying the master teacher, but what we mean is a rebel teacher. Somebody who is meant to bring in something new around belief systems, around thought forms, around the intellect, around how we perceive things, how we communicate with the rest of the world. So they are meant to go against the grain. But their greatest blessing, and perhaps their greatest challenge, is the fact that they don't necessarily have the fire, but they're very water as an energy. And while it helps them disseminate their ideas, very often it's easy for them themselves. For you as a Path 33, I'm going to talk to you, right? It's very easy for you to get discouraged. And because it is so easy for you to get discouraged and almost like don't believe in your own teaching, 33s often struggle with self-esteem. Very often, and that is something that comes up for them from early childhood and literally throughout their entire lives. They come and they don't feel enough. Now, we can argue that everybody feels some semblance of not enoughness on planet Earth. It is a planet where this is a very common ailment. However, Life Path 33 feels it deeper than most. Despite the fact that they carry within themselves that spark of source, spark of God, spark of the universe that is so unique and exceptionally just beautiful to witness, despite all of that, they usually walk around thinking that they're not enough. Very often they're going to have the imposter syndrome, like, who am I to be talking about this? Or who am I to even conceive of this great ideals? Or who am I to have people follow me, right? So there is a lot of that. I would call it the syndrome of smallness, actually. There is a lot of smallness around Life Path 33. So if you're recognizing yourself, know that it's not just you. It's kind of like the path that you're here to walk. And overcoming your smallness is one of the lessons of Master 33. So before you can become the teacher that masses or people flock to, you have to overcome your own smallness. For Master 33, despite the fact that they're a naturally gifted communicator, despite the fact that they're a naturally likable person, actually, and they could be the heart of, any group of people, any company, if you will, they very often carry deep-set trauma in their throat areas, right? So somebody coming as a Life Path 33 very often has to overcome the fear of speaking up, has to overcome the fear of being on their own path. Their intended path almost feels like bigger than life to them, like too big. Sometimes they feel like their calling is too big. And ironically, 33 is the easiest life path to fail. What do I mean by that? Every time you come into an incarnation and your higher self draws up for you the end destination or the ideal path, right? Going up, getting close to that end destination is considered success. If you quit too early, so to say, or didn't even take on the biggest challenge that you came here to overcome, then that's considered failure. Again, from the higher perspective, we can find many ways to view things, right? There are some people who will tell you there's no such thing as failing. There are other people who will tell you nothing is predetermined. I'm coming from a little bit of a different perspective. We are talking of the lifetimes that are pre-planned, and very often our incarnations are pre-planned down to a T. You would be surprised how planned your lives are. Now, you have free will. Because of that, you have a chance and you have a birthright to stray off the predetermined course. Is there a chance that by straying off the predetermined path, you're going to learn something that is extremely valuable? Yes, absolutely. Do you know what happens when you die? You have to repeat the same thing over and over again until you get to that end destination. So let's say that your end destination as a master teacher is to birth a teaching that 1 million people on planet Earth are going to follow. We can take the perspective of no matter if you choose to become a restaurant chef or an entrepreneur or a singer on stage, despite becoming this master teacher that you are called to become, we can argue that yes, by becoming a singer on stage, you have learned a lot about fame, right? Which or like influencing people or something. We can say, hey, that was a valuable experience. And that will be true. However, right, once you go back to the drawing board, once you die and you have a conversation with, when you merge with your higher self and, you have a conversation with yourself around how things went, you're going to be, back in a body within like a heartbeat, because you're still like your end goal and the most coveted, the most desirable end goal for you would be to become the master teacher. And so when I say that Master 33 is the easiest incarnation to fail, is actually as I watch the human collective off planet Earth, Master 33s are probably the most challenged usually around taking on their calling. So they tend to stray off the path more often than they tend to stay on the path. And because of that, not only do we not have enough 33s, because it's considered to be a very complicated incarnation to undertake, but even of the 33s that are present on planet Earth, I would say about 50% are nowhere close to being on the path, which is a pretty big ratio of failing, actually. Life Path 33 and the poster child for Life Path 33 is Jesus, or one of the poster children. He was definitely a master teacher. He led a lot with his heart, which is something that is going to be very prevalent with 33s, right? When you lead with your heart, it doesn't just mean that you lead with love. You may lead with compassion. You may lead with understanding. You may lead with non-judgment. All of those things are leading from the heart. The heart is also a bridge to the higher spheres. So anybody who is leading from the heart usually leads with, higher frequencies and higher energies and, is more in alignment as well with the universe. When we are dissecting any life path, we need to look at the energy of the numbers that make up that life path. So in this particular case, it's the energy of the 3 that's going to be very strong, of course. And then 3 plus 3 equals 6. So we need to examine both frequencies in order for us to understand what is the life challenge of a 33 is. 3 is our divine child. 3 is when masculine and feminine meet in an act of creation. So as a Life Path 33, you are a divine child incarnate. And just like Jesus, the Son of God, if you will, you have come here and you have been chosen. Now, we may argue that you have chosen yourself, but that is the most important part, right? Like to be chosen by yourself is a pretty big deal. To be in this teacher seat, if you will. And so for Life Path 33, what defines their energy a lot is this youthfulness, is a little bit of a naivete when it's almost like they're idealistic to a fault. It's very easy for a 33 to believe in a better world. It's very easy for them to become a daydreamer. It's very easy for them to believe that no matter how hard things are always going to get better. They are very optimistic at heart. Usually a 33 has a lot of energy. They're very energetic. They can have either a bubbly personality or, they cannot sit still. There's a little bit of that restlessness when they're growing up. They are also very often talented as children. There is a talent or a few talents that they have that they're displaying quite early, whatever that is, whether that is an athletic aptitude or something that's intellectual. And also another interesting point about Life Path 33 is they mature, mature in a sense that despite the fact that they keep their youthfulness pretty much throughout their entire lives, they feel very wise beyond the years. So they have a little bit of a little Buddha archetype to them, where it could be like a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old that out of nowhere is just going to comment on something that their parent did or the adults around them did. And everybody's like quiet just because they're like, whoa, what is that? How insightful is that? And so that Master 33, they're a little bit of a philosopher at heart. It's, they look at life and it's almost like they're measuring everything against their own internal compass. And that's why this Life Path 33, not all of them obviously are teachers. And not all of them are, I would say, would be a general, vast overgeneralization if we said, hey, everybody who is a Master of Path 33 is meant to teach. No, some of them are writers. Some of them are artistic. Actually, a lot of artists are coming through the Life Path 33. It is because they are imparting a new energy. And a teaching can come in many forms. It doesn't just have to be, let me teach you about, quantum physics, or let me teach you about spirituality. No, you can teach somebody through a painting. You can teach somebody through a sound frequency. You can teach somebody by being a certain way, actually. If you embody a particular archetype that is rare on planet Earth, it could teach others around you, right? So, but very often it's an outward expression of a person. And very often it is something that has to do with intellect, something that has to do with the higher chakras. So very often as a Life Path 33, you would come into an incarnation with your higher chakras being extremely developed and your lower chakras are being somewhat overlooked. So a very common challenge for a 33 is not being grounded. And that goes hand in hand with like being a little bit of a divine child and being a little bit of, a daydreamer and not really wanting to face reality at face value. And kind of living in your own world, in your own imaginary world. Sometimes like not really wanting to face the music. Sometimes for 33, it's hard to accept responsibility because of that, right? Because in order for you to have to accept or want to accept responsibility, your lower chakras, usually solar plexus, needs to be pretty down pat. And that is a challenge for 33s. So as they are embarking on their journey of, becoming that master teacher or becoming that master creator or becoming that master philosopher, or becoming that master sharer, meaning sharing their wisdom, sharing their energies, they have to face the fact that in a physical world, having or paying rather no attention to the lower chakras is a recipe for disaster. And so as they're growing up, they're going to be faced with a few challenges. First, they're going to be faced with the world that is not almost like as they expected it to be, right? So the harshness of this world really hits a 33 like no other. They really have these beautiful hearts that are wide open. And so the cruelty of the world hits them hard. And very often with a Life Path 33, there is an instance in their childhood when they knew without a trace of a doubt that this world is messed up. Like something happened and they were living in their golden bubble with pink goggles on. And they're like, hey, it's all going to work out. And then something happens. And they're like, whoa, this world is nuts. Now, what is that something? It really depends on a person. Sometimes it's a loved one dies. Sometimes it's a heartache or heartbreak. Sometimes it's betrayal. But it's something usually bigger that feels in the moment bigger than life to this person. And it usually happens fairly early on in life, like your teens or before, where you're like, oh my gosh, this world is not what I thought it was. And in fact, for 33, what that does is it makes you not want to commit to this reality. It makes you want to fly away like a balloon into the sky, into like your own dream world, and not be present, not be here, not be grounded, because you don't perceive this world as amenable or likable. You don't really feel like you're from here very often as a 33. Yeah, so that is a pretty big before and after traumatic experience. But that doesn't end there. And then the growing up needs to happen, right? And the responsibility. You have to start taking on responsibility. And for a lot of 33s, making money is a pretty big challenge. They don't want to make money, or rather they want to make money, they just don't know how to make money. And if they come upon money, they somehow lose the money. And so again, going back to the lower chakras not being properly nurtured, right? Or balanced, shall we say, or both. It's literally like a lot of 33s are like an untethered balloon, just floating, and in their, very likable though, very lovable, like super optimistic, like a kid bouncing up and down. But you're like, okay, well, you're really going to have to grow up. And the growing up is really tough for the 33 because they're so used to being the divine child. And you guys need to get something. The divine child is not an archetype that is, how do I explain this? A divine child is somebody who is used to the universe taking care of them because their parents did, or their parents do, right? And then, their parents are divine mother and divine father, essentially. So the divine child is used to having things given to them or handed to them on a platter, and but they're not spoiled. This is like the highest level of abundance you can experience as a soul is carrying within yourself the divine child archetype. When you don't have to lift a finger, you are going to, still get things. So very often, 33 would get pretty interesting handouts from the universe out of nowhere by the virtue of them being a divine child. So very often, despite the fact that they're not necessarily good with money themselves, like making the money, somehow the universe provides for them. Now, here's what we get into the tricky part and the tricky bit. The tricky bit is the 6. The 6 in numerology means a lot of different things. In this particular case, one of the main things that it is it's the number of karma. So 33s are very often held back by karma. And it is not just their personal karma. It is the karma of a group of people. In certain and if you're feeling like, if you guys are sensing any parallels with Jesus, it's because he was a 33. And it's because it was, he was living into the same exact archetype. So in his particular case, he was dealing with the karma of humanity, right? The entire human race. He came here to transcend the entire human race up until the point of his death, right? And then, of course, he died, got resurrected, and then karma started again for humanity. And arguably right now, we're just, in the same spot, if not worse, compared to when he came in terms of karma. But it is a quick example of how 6 played out in his incarnation. Now, when you're coming as a 33, what you may experience is that somehow either you feel responsible for humanity at large, or at least you feel responsible for your lineage or your family, immediate family. And it's not just the feeling that you have, and it's not just a belief that you have. It is the truth in your case. So you often come as a 33 to transcend big chunks of darkness in your own karmic lineage, or a portion of the collective human karmic debt. Why do you do that? It is a choice, actually. It is an act of service. And I know that not a lot of people resonate with the idea of service, but in this particular case, it is what it is, right? So as a Master 33, please know this about yourself, that you have opted in to help humanity get rid of some of its karma. It could be karma around a particular subject, or it can be general broad spectrum, like everything the kitchen sink karma. It really depends on you. The amount of karma that you came here to transcend also depends. The actual act of transcending karma would look very different for every life path 33. For some of you, you may be called to do a particular thing day in and day out, and that would be a small act of service. Others may be called to, invest in a cause or volunteer for a cause. Still others may be called to start a movement to cleanse some type of karma. Like, what would be an example? I don't know. let's say you came here to cleanse the karma of like massive genocide. When the Europeans first came to the American continent, there was like a massacre essentially here with the native tribes. And let's say that, to help clear up that karma, your calling is to, I don't know, create a movie about what happened so people know the true story. That's just one quick example, right? And through that, through portraying those historical events, through giving justice to the ones that fell and were killed and murdered brutally, maybe you're restoring some semblance of justice. Now, this is just one example, right? But I just wanted to illustrate what does it mean to transcend karma. Transcending karma can come in so many different shapes and forms. Some of you as a Master 33 would come to transcend karma through actually disease and sickness. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a terminal disease, but you may develop like a chronic condition that it is your path to overcome. And through overcoming the disease in your body, you would inadvertently be clearing out the karma for the human collective. That is another example of how this may transpire in your life. The third example could be sometimes karma can be actually paid off with money. Now, this may not be your case, but as a 33, if you've lost massive amounts of money, remember how I told you 33s are not really good at like keeping money? Part of the reason is also sometimes they're actually losing money because that they're meant to, and it's part of the karmic payoff. So say you came upon an inheritance as a Master 33 and, I don't know, bought yourself a diamond ring. I know this is like a very weird example, but bear with me. And then you go on vacation and it gets stolen out of your safe box or something. And that's it. Like, and you don't have the money anymore. At face value, it may feel like there's something wrong with you. Like, what the hell did you do? But actually what happened in this particular case is a big chunk of karma has been paid off with that money, right? So yes, that little piece of jewelry or the money that you had may be gone because it was stolen, or I don't know, money doesn't have to be stolen. Sometimes you lose it. Sometimes you just come upon, I don't know, like a natural disaster and all of your assets get wiped away, or like your house get damaged by the hurricane or something, and then you can't get the insurance money. Like that can come, like the losing money, the losing of material possessions can come in so many different ways and shapes and forms. One thing you need to know, right, as Master 33 is most likely if this happened to you, with the money went the karma, the bad stuff in this particular case, right? So you created a clearing for yourself and most likely humanity at large, right? So, I'm not saying welcome these kinds of things, but understand where they're coming from. Yeah, the issue of karma is going to come front and center with a 33. They're going to have to deal with karma and their own darker, deeper patterns, their own shadow aspects quite a lot. Their fears are going to be holding them back big time. So I would say shadow work, specifically around parts work, specifically fear related, is a very, very important practice for a 33. Don't be afraid to look at your shadow. There is a little bit of that fear with a 33 because they're so pure. There is a lot of purity around their divine child archetype that they're really afraid to be tarnished by looking at the dark. But I will tell you that when you are pure and pristine, and you stare the dark straight in the face, the only thing that is going to happen is the darkness will become lighter, not the opposite, right? So have faith. Have faith. And that's another thing that's really, really required for a Master 33 is to have faith. It's very important for them to maintain connection with higher spheres, maintain connection with God. Anybody who is an atheist, anybody who doesn't believe God or source is real, who is on life path 33, I have bad news for you. You are going to have to, you're going to need to develop that connection, right? Because your teaching is going to come through your crown center, whether you realize this or not, your seventh chakra at the top of your head. And that can only come through if your relationship with the God Almighty is down pat. If it is real, and you are aware, like you have no trace of a doubt. So faith can come front and center for the Master 33. And when I say faith, I don't mean religion. It is something bigger than that. Believing in God or in source goes so much deeper. It's beyond religion. It is perhaps the most important relationship in your life. Outside of maybe your own relationship with yourself. That's how deep it goes. Yeah, so Master 33 their lives are not necessarily always a merry-go-round because they are going to have to pay off karma. Like sometimes they're going to have to do favors for people. Sometimes they're going to have to do and those favors would be from past lives, like past life related stuff. They're like, why did I do that? Like, why did I help this person out? Because you were meant to, because it's a sacred contract. So there's a lot of that with Life Path 33. But they're also really good at transcending darkness. Just know that as a Life Path 33, you are an exceptional master of bringing light onto this planet and also being the carrier of light frequencies, right? So no matter how much darkness is thrown at you, you're always able to come out on the other side victorious. Now, 33 is also about balance, but not in the same way that Master 11 is. 33 is about creative balance. It's balance in creation. And they are actually the visual representation of this life path is the Star of David. So the two triangles, the upwards triangle for the masculine and the downward triangle for the feminine frequencies, right? And a Master 33 really finds themselves when they realize that they are a creator and they're able to create reality around them, both using and leveraging their intellect, which is the masculine, as well as leveraging their heart, the feminine. And for them, that mind and heart connection is extremely paramount because a true teaching, a true emanation, a true vibration of change can only come through that alchemical dance between the heart and mind, the masculine and the feminine. They don't get to pick sides. They have to embrace everything. Because as a divine child, they are the third point in a triangle, the mother, father, child point. They represent creation, actually, at the highest, in the highest spheres. And it is really important for Master 33 to ask themselves a question of, what am I here to create? What am I here to teach? And what am I here to share with the world? Perhaps with the what am I here to share with the world being the most general, the most fundamental question. What kind of energy did I come here to embody, right? That's also very important. Working through your lower three chakras, starting with the root, going to the sacral, and then the solar plexus. Really, really important. Ironically, very often a Life Path 33 is going to be given a tough father figure. By tough, it could be tough in many different ways. They could be non-emotional, just like the father figure that's very strict, shall we say, and just doesn't really show emotion. It could be a father that's absent, right? Just not very involved, not very engaged. Or it could just be a father whose opinions, whose life path or position is just very different from the child, right? And so there's a little bit of the wounding that I see as a general rule. Now, there's exception to every rule, but with 33s, there's that remoteness, that aloofness between them and their father. And healing that father relationship is paramount and pivotal for them to step on their path. Because by healing their relationship with their earthly father, they're healing their relationship with the divine father, right? And again, for a 33, path 33 for Jesus, their relationship with the divine father is what the most important relationship there is. Yes. Like I said already, we spoke about the challenges quite a lot because this path is rooted with challenges. Life Path 33 doesn't really like working. Like any divine child, they'd rather chill. They don't really like hard work. They don't really like the rat race, the grind, the 9 to 5, going to school, getting a degree, trying to slave for money. Like they hate that. They hate the system, if we're being honest. They would rather life was very different. It's very often they're happiest in nature or just around people. Like they're the party people sometimes. It's just they're very social. But they also appreciate the beautiful things in life. That's why I would say the Life Path 33 has a heart of an artist. They're extremely sensitive. They're extremely artistic. And they're able to see the world from a very different vantage point compared to everybody else. Because it's both futuristic, like forward-looking, as well as it's almost like everything has a tint of gold to them. Like there's no such thing. Like they see the best in everything. Like every circumstance, it's really hard to bog them down. And from that vantage point, they're able to see more than others. So very often a life path 33 is a path of a seer or a visionary, right? Like where they see, okay, this is where we're supposed to be going. And through that, their teaching can be born. But their teaching can also be born through integrity, right? They have to be true to who they are. And that means healing their a resistance towards growing up in some ways and getting responsibility. Like they don't want responsibility. They'd rather refuse it every step of the way. They don't really want to grow up. They always want to keep that youthful, like, I wouldn't say childlike, but also childish outlook on the world, where they're like, let somebody else take care of me. But unfortunately, that is one of their challenges. At one point, they are faced with, hey, what are you going to do for a living? And for some of them, they go through an existential crisis when faced with that question. And I will tell you that the biggest potential for life path 33 is intellectual, right? So again, the quality, the caliber, and the amount of energy that goes through your higher centers as a master 33 is unprecedented. It's beautiful, it's glorious, it is unlike anything else. At the same time, once they, get grounded, so to say, it's very easy for them to end up doing something that's quite mundane for a job, or like working with their hands, or, I don't know, like fixing cars, for instance, or like painting walls inside of the house, like becoming a painter or construction worker. It's actually a very, very common thing for a 33 to do. But I will tell you, that is not where your greatest potential lies. Your greatest potential lies in finding your voice and letting your voice be heard. So there's a lot of karma that you would need to transcend around the wounding of being seen, the wounding of being heard. When you spoke to the people before and something happened to you, when you got ostracized for your beliefs, that is a very common wounding to go over and get over with a 33. Now, let's look at your talents. You carry within yourself a very rare frequency of unity and oneness. It's like in the back of your mind, you always remember what that original oneness feels like. And you're the carrier and emanator of those energies. So your presence is quite healing to a lot of people. Your touch can be healing to a lot of people. You can inadvertently harmonize people's auric fields and energy bodies by just simply being in their presence. So very often, people around you, their lives become better. You may not feel like your own life becomes better, right? But you tend to be a donor, right? So that's very much a gift. You usually have a beautiful voice as a master 33. Either a beautiful voice or just a gentle voice, or like a voice that people really like to listen to. It's almost like wisdom. You're the carrier of that wisdom, and people subconsciously recognize that, right? So using your voice, making sure you allow it to develop, whether through chanting, through actually breath work would even help, right? Because the lungs are really, really connected to the voice. That's what you need in order to bring the depth to your voice. Speaking up, right, again, and dealing with the karma, dharma, drama that is stuck in your throat center, your expression center. Anything that is preventing you from expressing yourself is really going to hold you back on the life path 33. As a 33, you have come here to birth a teaching. You have come here to emanate a particular frequency. You have come here to be seen, to be heard, to matter, right? You have not come here to be in the background, to shy away from change. In fact, you are a way shower and a change maker. And you are leading with so much heart and integrity that stepping onto your path can only make this world better. If you were to step on your path, not only would you be so much happier, but everybody around you would really start to flourish. And I know that for you, it's so hard to recognize your own genius, and it's very easy to hide behind all of these walls and excuses that you've built up for yourself around not being good enough and around not mattering almost. But if you choose to come out of your shell, the things that you're able to create for this planet are going to be game-changing. And I do hope that you consider stepping on this path, because if not, you're going to have to do this again. It's going to be a merry-go-round until you finally do, right? So what is the point of prolonging the suffering? I don't mean that the life path 33 is a path of suffering. I just mean that it's rooted in challenges, right? Like there is a lot of overcoming that has to happen, but it is one of the alchemical paths. 33 is very much an alchemical path. What do I mean by that? Alchemy is creation, is the art of creation, the art, the science, all of the above. How can we take 1 + 1 and that becomes 10,000? So anybody walking a master teacher path is an alchemist at heart. They alchemize energy, they alchemize things around them, and they truly draw a new trajectory for society, which is so much needed, right? They are a leader that people were born to follow. So as a master 33, please know that you already have some baked-in followers very often, people who are supposed to follow into your footsteps at some point. Right? So as a way shower, this is a big responsibility. And it's up to you to accept it. By the way, if you don't accept it, very often what's going to manifest in your body is a backache. Somebody who's a master 33 that hasn't accepted their path very often deals with back issues. If you step off your path, the backache is only going to get worse. I'm just saying. I wanted to take questions from the collective around Life Path 33, anything that is relevant to this conversation. I'm here to answer. The question is, you kept bringing up Jesus. Does it mean that as a Life Path 33, I'm meant to emulate Jesus? No, not necessarily. He's just such a strong presence with the 33 energy. He died. He was crucified when he was 33. 33 is considered the Christ age. So it's really impossible to talk about the numerology of 33 without mentioning him, if I'm being completely honest. No, you're not meant to be Jesus, but he is a good North Star in certain instances, right? In certain instances. I would actually caution you strongly against emulating the martyr part of Jesus. The martyr part is not the part of a master teacher. So if you borrow things from Jesus, right, if he is your, like a figure that you want to emulate, please don't take everything in the kitchen sink with it, because the martyr archetype is the archetype that is actually dying out on the planet Earth. It's not very much needed anymore. The martyr archetype is actually being replaced by the creator archetype. The martyr is somebody who is the ultimate victim in certain instances, right? Right, like the ultimate victim. And the creator is the polar opposite of that, right? So in fact, as you are looking into the story of Jesus, think of him as the creator of this path of love and acceptance, right? Instead of the martyr, because you're not really meant to suffer on your path as a master teacher. If you're suffering, you're doing it wrong. If you are running out of steam, if you're getting, if you're low energy, you're doing it wrong. It's either not your teaching or you're going about it the wrong way. It's not meant to be hard, you guys. Like, not really. Like, you're not meant to feel like you're tortured and you're a martyr and you're suffering for humanity. That is not how it's supposed to feel. This path is supposed to feel joyous, actually. Yes, there's some, karma to overcome, but as a master 33, you have exactly what it takes to do that. And you don't have to suffer, right? Suffering is a choice. Suffering is a perspective. Suffering is optional. You can choose otherwise. Yeah. But of course, by studying the life of Jesus and what he did and didn't do, it may light up it may give you clarity around your own path as a 33. So thank you for the question. I will take one last question for this episode around Life Path 33. The question is, or you mentioned that there are not a lot of Life Path 33s. Is that because the world doesn't need them at this moment in time? Yes and no. There are 11s and 22s are a lot more prevalent as master life path numbers. It's not that it's a takes two to tango, right? It's like what the world needs, but also what the souls want to incarnate as, right? The earth could take more teachers. It's not a lot of souls are choosing this master incarnation precisely because it's hard. 6 is not an easy number. Like having 6 in your numerology chart, it's not an easy number. And that's why a lot of souls don't choose it. Now, there will be a time when this becomes a very, very covetable position, so to say. But just right now, there is, shall we say, that the amount of souls that are choosing this are a little bit on the smaller scale. But also, it is a blessing as well in scarcity. Sometimes experiencing scarcity in a particular type of energy teaches humanity more than experiencing a lot of that energy. And, usually planetary type teachers are quite rare. So it's not like you need 33 million people to walk this path because it's all about quality, not quantity when it comes to Master 33. They're just that special. You only need so many, and be able to shift the trajectory of an entire species. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you, my loves, for sticking around this long. If you're a Master 33, please know you're a trooper and I believe in you. You got this. Alrighty, my darlings, I'm sending you a big virtual hug. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.